recording. Didn't used to do that. I don't know why it's saying that now, but anyway, did you hear that? You hear it saying recording in progress?
Yeah, you got to say
right.
now.
Okay, so I'm going to do share screen, and hopefully photos. Share. Right. Okay. So first person, I'm going to show you. I just bought this mug. I absolutely love. This is Adam Frew. Have you heard of Adam Frew?
Yeah.
I absolutely love his work.
Frew spelt
F for Freddie, REW.
Didn't he do a crowdfunder to get his studio up and running a couple of years ago?
Oh really? Oh.
Yeah, I think so. He moved into the countryside and he did a sort of crowdfunding thing. And I'm sure it was him. Yeah.
Could possibly, yeah. He's based in Northern Ireland, and but he did a little online sale on Instagram the other day, and I bought this mug. But he's clearly using ceramic pencils here to do this little expressive drawing, but also in conjunction with slips and oxides and glazes as well, which are also expressively used because it's not glazed all over. So this whiter patch here is the raw porcelain underneath, and this is a Celadon glaze here. So
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It gives the feel of the mug a kind of very different feel to normal mugs because it's not consistently glazed all over, so it's got these patches that it works very well. This is a detail of it here, and there's this lovely sort of glorious drip here.
Yeah,
but yeah, so you can see down here it hasn't got glaze, but he's got this orange line along the bottom and these sort of twirly pencil lines
and a lovely handle as well.
Is that the clay, the orange line, or is it actually something that he's painted on?
He's painted that on. I think it must be an underglaze colour that he's painted on. And there are some splashes of the orange. Well, these are kind of more peachy. But yeah, it's porcelain and incredibly finely thrown as well, beautifully thrown. And it's really nice and big. You can get a really decent cup of tea. I'm delighted.
It's lovely. The glaze looks like it's got a greeny tint. Oh yes, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like a greeny tinge to it, hasn't it? It's clear, but
it's a Celadon glaze, so it's a kind of greeny, but mainly blue sort of duck egg blue. So it's lovely. This piece here, this is by oh, my brain's gone. Franz. I'll tell you later. I do know who it's by. Hold on. Right back. Be right back.
that drips dangerously close to the kiln shelf, isn't it?
I like that element about it. I like the fact that
it's so
vision. Sorry?
The drip just to that point.
Before it.
Fritz Rosman is a German potter.
What was the surname again?
Rosman, ROSSMANN.
Thank you.
I don't know to what extent he's still making, or indeed making, if he is making the same things, but because I bought this about 10, 12 years ago. It's a tiny little cup, but again, it's a Celadon glaze. But this is an extreme close-up. What I love is that this pencil line here has reacted with the glaze and is run. So where it's darker underneath, that's the ink or the oxides from the pencil line running down the surface. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. What's created the bubbling? Is the bubbling the glaze?
Bubbling.
Yes, I've had that before.
Which-
There's
which-
tiny little bubbles.
Do you
in the
mean
glaze.
like just there, round?
It's there. It's all over really. You can just see these tiny little bubbles all over it.
Yeah. It's a feature of well, it happens more in reduction firing than in other firings, but it can be really lovely. It's gases being released from the glazes as they're liquid, but then solidifying. So you've got the gas trapped in the glaze.
Okay.
But it's beautiful. Yeah,
Mm.
some glazes will do it. Depends on the kind of heating and cooling.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's a lovely. Yeah, I haven't got a bigger shot of that, but anyway. But I just love the way that the pencil line was creating this colour.
Beautiful line. You know, with the crazing, is it like what's on the inside? If you were making a cup, would you be able to drink out of it with?
Well, yeah, it's problematic because if you used it for tea or coffee, it would stain. Yeah, it is crazed on the inside as well.
It's
So-
beautiful though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it is a problem. I mean, a lot of my glazes have got a crazing, and it's fine if it's a decorative piece. But then I made a whole series of mugs for friends and forgot that my glaze is crazed because you can't really see it. It's a bit like, Claire, when you had a glaze and I said rub into it and ink into it, and you see the crazing much more. You kind of don't even know it's there. So all the mugs I gave to my friends Christmas are all kind of like stained on the inside now. I mean, you know, mostly it's not an issue, but it's a bit unsightly, I think. But
Unless you make it a feature.
yeah.
It was deliberate.
Yeah, it's like a sort of piece that changes over time. It matures and
Yeah, it evolves with you.
There's a lot of use of straight lines with pencils. They just really work really well on ceramics. And this is a guy called Eric Hibelot. He's French, so it's Eric with a C and Hibelot, I think. And I love his work. It's so jolly. It's just really jolly. When you see him I've seen his work at Ceramic Art London, and it's just this lovely pop of colour against all the kind of slightly less colourful things. And it's just the primary colours are just yummy. But I would say that this is a pencil or crayon line that he uses in his work. I've only got one picture of his work there, anyway. This is Katerina Klug. Surname is Klug.
I love that her top matches her bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She always does that. Whenever you see it at a show, she's always wearing a stripy top. It's just
That's her signature. That's her mark. That's fine.
But I chose this picture because you can see that she's holding a crayon, and I suspect it's a handmade crayon.
Okay.
That she's using, and you can get a very distinctive crayon-y line with that. You know, it looks like a crayon line, doesn't it? Here, so these pieces are actually made the other way round, in the sense that this is a plain wax crayon without any colour in it on a white body, and then glazed over the top.
Nice.
So you've got the kind of the opposite of what's going on here, but it's used by the glaze. So she's kind of creating almost invisible lines but still getting that crayon-y effect. It's quite basic. It's just lines, but it's effective. What I like about these is the different coloured lids. I think that's what makes them different, gives them a lift.
I guess you could use a wax candle, could you?
Yeah, yeah, you could. Yeah, I suspect that may even be what she's done, because it's likely to be a clear wax, but you can tell it's not painted on because of the broken line. If you painted a wax line with a brush with wax resist or with liquid wax, you'd get a very different look to it. So I think that's what's interesting. What I love about ceramics is that you can just tweak something, use the same technique but slightly different material or a slightly different, like, you know, a pencil instead of a brush, or you know, this instead of that, and suddenly you've got something different. So I love that, you know, the fact that you could do the same technique but with a brush, but you get a, you know, I mean, it's obvious if you're a painter, but yeah, I just think
I love the pop of colour on the tops and the contrast of the.
Yeah, that's what really makes these, I think, because some of them are a little, you know, can be a bit plain. You know, they haven't got the magic of Mandy's that have those really close lines and that sense of movement. I think you've got here, where these are quite still, aren't they? They've got the sort of stillness to them. I think Mandy's are much better. I'm not saying that. But you know, this hasn't got that energy, hasn't got that sense of movement. It's quite, it sits there. That's my view, but anyway, but the color, I think.
I agree, actually. It's that there's something quite formulaic about what they've done. They know it's going to sell. You know, there's a question mark, isn't there, as to are they producing to sell, or are they producing because they want to produce the content for a personal response? And that's where Mandy's come in, is because they are a personal response, and that's what makes them more interesting. There is a story behind them.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that there isn't that sense of story so much here. I mean, maybe there is, you know, maybe if she talked about it, I'd know what it was, but it doesn't have the energy that I'd like.
She's kind of used the lines to accentuate the shape of the pot, but not to create like a nice movement. There's not a looseness. It's very
yeah, it's kind of, it's freehand, but it's still quite leaden in a way.
Yeah, heavy.
And I don't think it has the fun that these have.
No,
There's really fun about these, and it's something almost childlike that I really like. So yeah, anyway, but you know, it's all personal taste, you know, but these are also hers. So yeah, I sent you a link on WhatsApp. There wasn't really time to view it, but there's a video of this woman, Helen Beard.
I really like her stuff. I saw her at Collect, and she did I like her swimming pool ones with the blue glaze and the little swimmers all around the edge. I love her. Yeah, I really like her stuff.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. So illustrative, and just the way that she translates the look of the watercolor onto the pot is fantastic. But actually, Claire, your bunny pot really reminds me of this. So
maybe I should have another go. I love the looseness of her work as well, because it's not tight at all. There's a lovely looseness and in her watercolors as well.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
I read that she gets them made into transfers for some of her stuff now, but she used to paint directly on the pot.
Well, watch the video, because it's really interesting, showing some of her process. Which, I mean, she probably does lots of different ways. I mean, you could easily have this printed as a transfer, and you know, and if you were making a series of mugs, that would be sensible. But bigger pieces, she might hand draw them. But in the video, it's fascinating because she's actually creating, in a way, a kind of carbon paper.
Oh,
which may be similar to what you were talking about earlier, Mandy. But she's painting oxides mixed with glycerin onto paper and then letting it dry. So she's essentially got a thin sheet of oxide on paper, so it's like a carbon paper, and then she draws through, holding the paper near the pot. She's then drawing the lines through the carbon paper. I mean, it's mind-boggling for me, because like how to because she has to not get it so that it touches the pot somewhere where she doesn't want the black marks. So watch the video. It's a lovely snapshot of her process, but she also shows how she does the sort of swimming pool bit with the sort of washing the colors in. But it's lovely, but it's a very kind of involved and very skilled process. This is
the quirky mug shapes are cool, aren't they? They weren't properly, they were slightly wonky. I like that.
It might be my picture, because you can see it's from a book. So
I was
it's
thinking I like the shape.
I think it's distorted. It's actually from a really nice book. I'll show. Can you see that?
Oh, nice.
Making
Making
a drawing.
It's by Kyra Kane.
That looks good.
This is about. I mean, it's about connecting the drawing and the making process. So it's not just about ceramics, but it's a really lovely book. But it's got a section on Helen Beard and how she. But make sure, if you do a search for Helen Beard, make sure you put Helen Beard ceramics, because there's another artist called Helen Beard who does something else that you might not want to see.
Oh,
That's intriguing.
yeah, now we're giggling the other one.
Yeah.
Only joking.
Well, we all know about you, Claire.
No, not really.
Oh, dear. Now I put this in because this is decals. This is what's her name? Can't remember her name. I'll have to look it up.
It's like Father Ted. If you tell us not to do something, Elaine, we want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're all rebels. That's why you're here.
Goes back to that teach sheet that you had, Claire.
So these have that kind of watercolory feel to them. These illustrations, but are done as then printed as decals. But what I like is actually what I really like on this pot is not so much the decal, but the little bit of gold luster.
Yeah, me too.
Which is hand painted on, and that just lifts it from being looking like you
Mass produced.
Yeah. I just love that little bit of gold luster there. That's mine. So this is a black porcelain pot, but completely unglazed. Except after bisque firing, I just painted the glaze that I would normally put all over my pots to make them grey. I just painted the little lines in the glaze as glaze.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
Not coating the whole thing. You don't think of just using glaze so much that way, do you? But it's
Yeah.
really cool.
I think that's why I included it, because I thought it's not something you see very often, is people actually painting with glaze. It's either all over, or some people will splash amounts. But what I like about, see, I'm allowed to like my own pots, Mandy. What I like about it is it's relatively subtle. That you only see the lines because it's shiny. It's not necessarily adding color. There's a little bit of the white speckle from my glaze that you get occasionally, but it's really just about shine versus semi-matte. So
I like that.
Mm.
Thank you.
And actually, Elaine, again, it's that similar thing, because I can see a couple of turning lines. So again, that looks to me like, you know what I was describing about when you're you know, on Rye Beach, and you see these really kind of old bits of post, and then the horizons and the sea behind it. That's similar. I really like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, that's, I mean, that's a nice thing, because you know, it's not necessarily all about removing any kind of path of the hand, you know. No, you don't have to remove all your throwing lines, and the fact that it's thrown is something to celebrate. So I mean, it's quite minimal on here, but yeah, they can still be there, and it, you know, in close up you get that sense of it being like a broken fence or
Yeah.
or something. But
I also like that when things have a bit of a life of their own, because although you painted them on, the kiln has made, the glaze has sort of melted a bit. It's not completely contrived, is it? Because in the firing, you don't. It's done something to the glaze as well. So it's not like
yeah,
another nice thing. I like watercolors because they do that. You know, when you don't have full control over things, I quite like the effects of that.
That's interesting. That word control keeps appearing. That's our theme word, isn't it, today? Control. Control of people, control from people, control of glazes, control of pencils. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It's that getting that balance between making what you're doing deliberate, but also allowing for those the colouring outside the lines. When you've got it a bit here, you know, and the colour lines are not, you know, and certainly, you know, looking at Helen Beard's drawings, they're not, you know, there's a blobbiness to them.
A lot of bleeding going on, isn't there? Which is nice to see, the way the clay absorbs it. And overlayering can sometimes make a colour deeper, which is normally what you get with watercolour paper, isn't it, Claire? The thicker the paper, the more stronger the colours of the ink will come through.
I did some greetings cards once ages ago for Carte Blanche, where I deliberately juxtaposed the outlines with they were kind of graphic-y images, but I did big images with ink, drew with the ink dropper, and then did tight blocks of colour on the Mac, but offset the colour block that was outside of the line, which was highly satisfying.
It's like a registration of a print, not quite. That's what they do with 4-colour print, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a nice feeling to push the colour outside of the line. I don't know.
Have you done screen printing at all?
I did it at art college, but I haven't done any since then, and it's something that I think would be great to do. And even on ceramics, you can
because it gives you that, you can change the registration ever so slightly of something. You get that overlapping and that sort of chance of colour, you know. I like that sort of it's chance, isn't it? It's like what will I get out of it? And that's what, Elaine, you've shown us as well. I really loved all those examples. Thank you.
They're lovely.
I think, you know, and what you were just describing, Claire, about the kind of like the looseness of hand painted and then next to something that's quite formal. I like that idea, and I get that from your Japanese range, where you've got the kind of swirls of the blue and then this little block of red.
Maybe that's probably an offshoot.
I like the contrast works well, because it's not just the color, the contrast of the blue and the red, it's the contrast of the swirls versus the square, which I think
tight versus you want the random bit as well, don't you? The out of control part.
Well, I'll switch to my my other camera if it's going to let me. No. Yes. Okay. So on this, is it the right way round for you? Because it's wrong way round for me. So this is me with the green crayon, and this is me with the green pencil. So you can sort of, you know, how they're gonna, that, you know, you can write with it, but you get a different look. And I drew some designs. I drew sort of like leafy designs here, and I drew a circle with lines across it. And then I painted some glaze over, and you can see where the crayon was. Glaze
Yeah.
has left that green there. So
I like that. It gives it a texture as well, doesn't it? It gives it like a
yeah. So this section here will have glaze over it, and this will have glaze just in little lines. So, which I think is quite interesting. So that's something that you get from the crayon that you wouldn't necessarily get from the pencil. But one thing I wanted to say about the pencil, because I mean, you can let's try and do some. I'm going to copy Mandy now.
God.
let's make it different. Have a bit of grass. So it is acting just like a kind of that's a terrible copy of Mandy's there. I've made
Rubbish.
Made it into grass instead of lines. Whereas the crayon is kind of more for sort of colouring in a way, or kind of doing fatter lines. But what I wanted to say was about the glazing over the top, which is really important, because these are some experiments that I did when I was a student. Now it's got words written on there, which are decals, but it's also got some blue, which was pencil. So here it says 302, which is the glaze, the number of the glaze that I used, and you can more or less read it, but it's a bit smudgy. And here you can't really see what it says. It actually says 288, but it's a bit obscured. And here, no idea.
oh.
So what I'm saying is that the glaze will interact with the pencil, and sometimes it will just leave it and it will be fine. So like Adam Frew's lines come through very clearly through the glaze, but Fritz Rosman's lines were causing the glaze to make the pencil line run. Does that make sense? So if I wanted to use this glaze with pencil underneath, I'd have to be happy that it's going to just create a splodge rather than an actual line, which is not really what you want. You might as well use something else. So think about, you need to know, you need to test your glazes over the pencil to make so this particular glaze, which is 367, because I luckily did write it somewhere else, doesn't work under the glaze, whereas 302 does work more or less.
Yeah.
It must be the underglaze reacting with the glaze, mustn't it? Because I had that with, the Japanese pots. One of them I tried with a different glaze, and the one just went smudgy blue like your test type.
Yeah. So it's essentially the some glazes will interact with your with the oxides that are in the pencil. So it's not always going to give you that fine line if you're going to glaze. So, but I'm quite sorry, go on, Jenny.
Wait, just one quick question: is there different brand types of pencils, or is there just a one go-to?
Yeah, lots of different brands. What have you found, Claire? Have you got some different versions?
I've got Amaco ones, just because when I looked, that was what came up in there. The Amaco watercolor glazes as well. Amaco tends to be quite a foolproof. I don't know, because I've had other things, but I've not tried any. It'd be interesting to try. It'd be interesting to try the ones. I like that green one, Elaine. It's really exciting.
This is a different one, is it?
So these are the ones that I bought. I got them from can't remember. Where did I get it from? Clay Cellar. I think, but you can get them from lots of UK suppliers, but Hobby Ceram. So what you can get is that some of them are just oxides, and others are various different mixes to give you of kind of commercial body stains to give you that the color, the exact color you want. So there were on the website there were lots of different greens. I'll send a link to it.
Oh, please. Thank you.
So you can get all sorts of different colors, but you can also make your own. But you know, so if you've got an oxide, if you've got a body stain color that you really like, you could then mix that with slip and then harden it so that it's into clay, and then low fire it, not above about 800.
Oh, cool.
And then you've essentially got a pencil.
Wow. Does it matter what? Do you tend to mix it with a white clay body?
Yeah, because obviously if you mix it with a darker colour, that's going to affect the colour.
I get the stupid question of the 2 sessions. Or
stupid question.
It is. I suppose if you mix terracotta with what was it? Could you use that with, well, no, that, so the stain with the clay low fired you could draw with, could you draw with terracotta stick then?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean it wouldn't have quite the intensity that you'd want. It would be better, I think, to mix iron oxide with porcelain to get, because it would have much more of a higher percentage of iron oxide than the terracotta. But I will send you a link for an online guide on making your own. But in this book here, I don't know, have either of you got this book?
No, but I've seen it before. I think I've seen it with you. That's why.
Oh, I think the problem is it was out of print for a long time, but I'm hoping it is back in print now.
Who's it by again?
Louisa Taylor.
Oh, did you mention this last week?
Well, there's a new one out that's called Ceramics Masterclass.
That was one you mentioned last week then.
Yeah, but this is a different one. This is a bit more how to. But there's a bit in here about making your own ceramic pencils and crayons, which is essentially mixing oxides into clay and low firing them, or mixing it into wax to make the crayon. So if you've got, look at Claire. I know, it's quite mind-boggling. The thing is, the possibilities are endless, because you can get these pencils in a million different colors from different companies, and you can get watercolors, and you can get waxes, and you can get watercolor pencils, and you can get inks, and you can get all these different things, and then you can make your own. So it's like, if you're into illustration or surface decoration, there's so many directions you could go in with this.
Your pencil looked lovely texture, because my Amaco black ones really a bit waxy, whereas I like that yours looks like an actual pencil, your green one. It's
a very nice pencil-y line to it. I think I'd have to keep sharpening it, because the surface of the clay will obviously it's rough, so it will dull it, but you get quite a nice pencil-y line with it.
Looks nice and chalky, not too waxy.
So the one you've got, has it got wax in it then, or?
Yeah, I think it has. I don't know, it's a bit shinier looking than that green one. I don't know whether it's something they put in to kind of bond the stuff together, because it does, it can't be too waxy, but that's got a lovely chalky, when you were drawing it, I wanted to take it off for you and have a go. I
haven't fired these yet, so I don't know how they'll come out. And I only got them this week, just so I can show them to you. but I've had this pencil for a long time, and I really just use it for writing on my test tiles so that I know what they are. So you know, here,
Yeah.
that was written with this pencil, so that I know it's glaze number 367, and it was an oxidation firing, because at the time I was doing oxidation and reduction. So the pencil is just used for that. But
Claire, do you find that it's as you have with pencils, we get different weights, don't we? But it's the way you apply pressure and where you have lighter pressure and you get that graduation. Is that what's intriguing you on that pencil? Because that's what's got me.
Yeah, it's a lovely soft. It looks like it would be lovely and soft to draw with.
Yeah.
Like when Elaine, I was wondering, because I could see you look like you're itching to have a go, and I thought the same. When Elaine, I was like, oh.
You know what we're like with pencils, aren't we?
Is it like ASMR or something? You know, if I do this, is it quite exciting?
It's so nice. It's really nice to watch, actually.
I'm enjoying it. It does feel just.
Oh, look at that, Mark.
No, it's a really nice pencil. It's better than my black one. I have to write on my test tiles again.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just not used to doing kind of surface decoration, so it feels really new to me, but it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I like those scribbly pots that people do. So you know, when they'll just do a black scribble on a pot. I like the randomness of that as well. Something nice.
What I've been looking at just recently for Theo's work was Jean Tinguely, and if you look at his drawings, it's got that kind of mad sort of energy of him creating his machines.
Sorry, I've got to go, guys. Sorry. Big love. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, send us the link for that artist, because that sounds really interesting.
Jean Tinguely, it's Jean, Gean, and Tinguely is Tinguely. He was French. He was part of the junk art movement.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your HB and different kind of like weights of pencils and so on, the article I'm going to send you from Ceramic Arts Daily addresses that and says that making your own pencils means you can change the weight and the hardness.
Yeah, because you could. Because if you add more wax to it, it would make it softer, which make a thicker line. Would that be right?
Well, I think he was talking about pencils rather than crayons. So because you're mixing it with clay and then low firing it. So if you fire it to say 600, it's going to be very soft. But if you fire it to 800, 900,
it's harder.
So I think that's how he's suggesting that you can adjust the hardness of.
Oh, I like that flexibility. Do you, Claire?
Yeah, exciting. I used to love a box of pencils where you get the whole range from like 8 to 6H. Yeah. Ooh, that was very exciting.
And there was always one pencil though that was shorter than the rest, and that was your favourite.
Yeah, and there was a few never used.
Yeah, the 2B that went ooh, and the 6H that was always there.
What do you use that for? Yeah, well, I'm just gonna finish up with a couple of other things that to do with kind of drawing on. This is a little pot that I made a long time ago, and this is actually painted on oxides, but I did it over the top of the fired glaze. So this is after. So originally this was a completely white fired pot with a white glaze on it, just a plain white glaze. And I hadn't tried this before, but I liked how it turned out. Was I just with a little brush, with a very small brush, just painted iron oxide over the already fired glaze.
Gosh, so it's already fired.
Yeah, and then refired it, so it had a third firing. But but I was thinking that this, you couldn't actually get this effect. It wouldn't be the same if it was under the glaze, because the glaze would get run. So
How
did
did
you
you
put
paint
it on
it
top?
on? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry.
First.
sorry, somebody ask again because I didn't hear.
Jenny.
I said I like the fact that you can put on top of a glaze, and it's not the definitive, because I always have seen it that glaze was the finish, but you're saying in that the glaze is the secondary and that the finish is then the oxide that you've applied on top. I like that. And can you see there's a subtle matting difference between the two?
Yeah. What it means is that the glaze isn't interacting as much with the oxide, so the little lines have remained separate, whereas if it were underneath the glaze it would just all merge together, and it's given it a slightly matte sort of effect. I mean, it's a sort of satin matte glaze anyway, but it doesn't, the final glaze doesn't have to be the final moment. Once you've glaze fired something, you can then refire it, and there are lots of potters out there, or not lots, but there are potters out there who will refire and refire, keep adding things until they're happy with it. Of course, also adding lusters is a thing that you do after your glaze firing. So if you've got, say that one I showed you with the little gold lines on the top, that's a gold luster, and that's applied on top of the glaze, and then refired to about 800. The other thing that you can do after something's been high fired is to add gold leaf and other metal leaf. So this piece here is actually silver leaf. But this was high fired. It doesn't actually have a glaze, but it could do. But I then use. Do you?
Shinies.
Well, I wasn't entirely happy with the look, but it's another thing that you can. It's another sort of string to your bow in terms of kind of finish of pieces and surface decoration. Is that you can just use normal gold size that you would use on paper or anything else, and then use metal leaf.
Does it react with glazes?
No.
Like in a microwave? Is there a problem when you fire it?
Well, this is not fired. So
you fire it?
This was bisque fired and then glazed on the inside. And then high fired, and then I added the metal leaf. But I've not refired it. That would burn away.
It would. Okay.
You'd get almost. You might have a shadow of it because of the metal this isn't actually real silver leaf. I don't actually know what's in this because it was from a Thai supermarket. Where they were selling these sheets of metal paper for burning incense. So I don't know what's in it, but it's got a nice silvery look to it. But yeah, it would burn away more or less, leaving nothing, unfortunately. So you have to just leave it, and it's not dishwasher safe, and you probably shouldn't put it in the microwave.
That's where the role of form and function comes in, isn't it? The decorative and the
and even that little pot that I showed you with the little gold luster on it. Gold luster will eventually wear away if you overwash it. She makes functional wear with the gold luster on, but if you look at old ceramics that your granny might have had that's got gold luster on painted on, you can see wear and tear because it just eventually it's just not fixed on, it doesn't soak into the glaze, it just sits on top.
Elaine, with your oxide on top of the pot, how did you, I'm intrigued as to how, because whenever I've tried to paint on, with it being a glazed surface, didn't it bead up and repel? It's amazing how you've managed to paint the lines Do you think it was because it was a matte glaze, or?
I think that helps. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the fact that this is a satin, I mean, it's still really smooth, and it does. You can kind of see that it created little, like where it's lighter and darker.
I love the watercoloriness of it.
Yeah, and in a sense, it did sit on the surface, and I had to handle it very carefully. So when I put it back in the kiln, I couldn't touch any of these bits; it would have just smudged off. So, but it did dry, and it didn't run. So I haven't tried it on a very glossy surface, but I have done it on glazes that are slightly shinier than this. But
was it just oxide mixed with water? You didn't add any?
It was,
paint
yeah.
to make
It was, I mean, you can get a sense of what it was like, but it wasn't really runny, but it wasn't like a paste either. It was sort of like a thick watercolor. But yeah, just the oxide with water. If I'd mixed it with slip, it would have come away, because it just wouldn't have adhered quite as well to the surface. I think
you can get like I've bought some gelling I've bought some things from Clayman to make my own sort of underglazes with like things like frit and Ceragel and stuff like that. But I don't know how.
So what was the other thing? Frit and
what I bought that for.
What does it do? I don't know.
I need it because there was a reason, and I've got a bottle of it in the shed, and it's called Ceragel or something.
Gel.
I can't remember why. I've got things like that in the shed that I bought for a specific reason, and then forgot what they're for. But the frit you mix with the well, you'll know anyway. But it was Reg said if you mix the frit, so many parts frit with so many parts stain, and then a bit of water, you can make your own. That's how I do the colours for the Japanese pots.
Okay, well, frit, yeah, it's normally it's a mixture of different ingredients that are then kind of chemically interact so that they form a particular, I don't know the sciencey stuff. I've gone down a rabbit hole I can't answer, but they're it's a general term to cover
like a flux. Like a flux.
Okay.
A flux. I may have got that. It's like a white powder flux.
Okay. Right.
So I think it's a glass. It must be a powdered glass because it's like a flux that you mix
so it's giving it a little bit of a glaze
colour with, and then it creates it's not just a powder suspended in water, it creates a pasty although it still rubs off if you accidentally touch it, so until it's fired. But I think it makes it bond.
Have you used glycerin at all with oxides?
No.
See, this is it. Something interests me. I've read about it somewhere else, and then I heard on that video with Helen Beard, she mixes glycerin with her oxides to get.
I bet that's what those underglaze palettes are. Those watercolor palettes. I bet they're hardened glycerin because they are squashy and they harden a bit more over time. I bet that's what that is. She makes her own, which would be nice because then you get the fluidity as well, rather than having to keep, like with paint, blobbing the water on and whizzing it around.
Yeah, I'd be really interested if you get a chance to watch that video. I'd be really interested in what you think, Claire, because she uses the glycerin for making the black lines, but also she doesn't say how she makes the watercolors, but she mixes different underglaze colors to create the sort of watercolor wash that she does. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I think it's incredibly skilled.
How lovely! That's such a cool idea to mix the glycerin with the stain, the coloured stain.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
You get that paint consistency, wouldn't you, on the to adhere to the bisque.
I think that's it. It will help it stick and give it a less, you know, give it more of a kind of stronger consistency. Whereas with water, I think you rely on it sticking apart. And what she says in the video is that the glycerin helps because she paints it on, but then she doesn't fire it on then before glazing. She paints it onto the bisque, and then dips it in the glaze. And you think it would just wash all of the design, smudge it all. And she says that if it wasn't for the glycerin, it would just wash off.
Yeah.
The glycerin is what's holding it. But she does also say if you brush the glaze on, that would smudge it. So she has to dip. But it's interesting, the glycerin thing. I didn't really know much about that. So
with those Japanese pots, I have to spray them or dip them. I can't brush it on because it smudges it all. The same thing.
Yeah.
The same as they do. If you brush them on, it just swipes it off.
Well, that's really that's cool. Well, I think I'm going to have to finish there. Just
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That's been really informative. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine.
It's more informative than demonstrative. I didn't really demonstrate.
Never. You are never that.
well, I didn't sort of demonstrate much in the way of kind of like, me doing amazing drawings.
It was very satisfying.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, I do.
Makes me want to go and get a pencil, actually. I might have to get it out
right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, good. I'm glad that was interesting. So I was going to I'm going to on WhatsApp. I'll ask people what they want to do about next week in terms of subject.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Not.
We haven't finished yet, have we?
No.
Okay.
No, but we. What did I think? Oh, we're still on the. I can't remember. Anyway, I'll text because I don't think I think it was going to be a review of where we are and what you've been doing, but you may want another demo of something.
We like demos and we like chatting.
And I do, I have to think up some new amazing subject for you to do.
Never, no.
I'll take you guys for a chat.
It's like,
it's really
fantastic because it gets me doing stuff that I wouldn't normally do, and trying crayons and
it's kind of nice. It's a bit of a play session. I bought my underglazes yesterday, and I've done some slabs, and I'm going to do some birds and paint on and do maybe some sgraffito, like garden hangers for that art. And I was thinking something like that, and some leaves and things, but more painting on.
That sounds great. Well, I want to see that. Yeah.
I'm itching, but they could be awful. But
I think
you know your beautiful lady that you made.
Yes.
And your green man.
Yeah.
Have you thought about applying pencil marks to those?
So
if you do it again, could you try to get the light and dark shades in there and just add a little bit more detail?
They'd be very dramatic, wouldn't they? If you showed the sockets and.
Oh, you could add some real detail, couldn't you? Oh.
Yeah.
If you want to go that far.
I think I'd like to set it as homework for this week to, if you've got a pencil or if you're interested in making one or buying one, explore it, because I think it, especially you two, I think no pressure. But and Maria, if you're listening, you as well. You've got to do some drawings. I bet Maria's got loads of pencils.
That's if she's got this far in the video.
Yes, if she's got this far in the video. We should put like some kind of Easter egg at the end, shouldn't we? Like, have end credits
Yes,
and then have sort of like on the Marvel films, have a thing at the end where
Yes.
you
Yes.
can't miss it. Yeah. A secret.
we all suddenly do.
Zoom code in for next week's
Yeah, a little
meeting.
code at the end.
Yeah.
Secret code.
Oh, dear. Right. Okay. Well, lovely to see you all.
Thank you. Thank
See
you.
you all
Sorry,
too.
sorry to see Mandy disappear in the middle of that, and sorry
It's all right.
to Maria. But we'll see you soon. I'll see you guys next week.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.